Hey folks, James Abrenio coming to you from Abrenio Law, your Northern Virginia personal injury and criminal defense law firm. In this video, I want to tell you about why I hate umbrella policies. So what is an umbrella policy? An umbrella policy is a separate kind of insurance that you can get to cover yourself for various things, including whether or not your negligence causes injuries to another party. And this, a lot of times, at least in the cases that I deal with, deals with umbrella policies for car accidents. And why do they call it an umbrella? Well, the reason they call it an umbrella is because it typically sits atop of your underlying auto insurance coverage. So what does that mean? Typically, when you buy auto insurance, you're going to buy an underlying coverage for a few different things. The two primary ones are liability, meaning if you hurt somebody else and you get sued, liability will protect you. And then there's something called underinsured motorist coverage, which is the coverage that protects you if you're hurt by a third party or another party and they don't have enough coverage or they don't have any coverage. Well, UIM, or underinsured or uninsured motorist coverage, will allow you to tap into your own policy and help compensate you in the event that that person is not properly covered, and you can now have an auto insurance claim in order to compensate you for pain, suffering, lost wages, those kinds of things. They're really the fundamentals when it comes to injury cases. Now, what is it about umbrella policies and how do they typically come into play? Usually what will happen is you'll go to your broker, whether it's through Allstate or Geico or whoever the case may be, and you'll say, look, I want to buy auto coverage. And under Virginia, the minimum requirements, at least as we sit here today, it is June 20th of 2022. The minimum requirements are $25,000 in coverage. I think in July it's going to go up to a mandatory minimum of $50,000 here in Virginia. And they'll say to you, you're going to be fully covered if you purchase $25,000 of liability, $25,000 of UIM, and you're good to go. You're legally allowed to drive under Virginia law, and that you're, quote, fully covered. And oftentimes I'll also hear that brokers, what they'll do is they'll say, look, if you want to buy additional coverage, we're going to go ahead and sell you an umbrella policy. And it's not going to be very expensive, and it'll protect you in case you injure somebody a lot more seriously than the minimum requirements, or if you bought a little more than the minimum requirements, and you'll be fully covered and you'll have an umbrella policy. And it sounds great. It's not a whole lot much more money, and let's get it done. And that's what typically happens. But oftentimes, far too often, later on, I will have somebody that calls me after they bought an umbrella policy, after they bought, minimum coverage under Virginia law, or maybe even more, let's say 50 or 100,000 of liability in UIM. They'll call me, they'll have been severely injured by another driver, and not surprisingly, the other driver has relatively limited coverage, and they'll look at their own policy, they'll look at their UIM, and they'll try to tap into that. But unfortunately, they've bought 25, 50, or 100, and when let's say you've been in the hospital, you've gotten surgery, 25, 50,000, 50 or $100,000, typically, objectively, that's a lot of money. But when you then go to use it for a severe injury case, it turns out to not be a whole lot. And so they'll say, well, James, I've got this umbrella policy. I want to use that, and we should be good to go, right? Unfortunately, what typically happens is you look at the umbrella policy, and it has an exclusion for underinsured motorist claims. There is no UIM, and that's what the brokers and the auto insurance sellers will never tell you. The reason they like umbrella policies is because it doesn't cover UIM. It doesn't cover underinsured coverage. So yes, if you hurt somebody severely, you have that umbrella policy that protects you in a liability suit. But if you or somebody else that's another insured gets injured, they're not covered. And so you're out of luck. And nobody ever really has that discussion with the consumer, you, the purchaser of the insurance, and you only find out when it's far too late. And unfortunately, this is the problem with the insurance in general, and the insurance industry in general. You don't find out about the lack of coverage until later on, until you actually need it. And so that's why I don't like umbrella policies. I think it's essentially something that's disguised as full coverage, is something that's really going to help you, but when it comes down to it, if you're injured by somebody else, it ends up failing you, and that's a real problem for me. So what would I do? I recommend that you buy more underinsured motorist coverage. The difference in cost between a $25,000 liability UIM policy versus $1 million liability UIM policy is not significantly more. I'm talking about a couple $100 a year. So it's a huge financial windfall for a relatively small financial investment on the front end. So that's what I recommend. Buy more UIM, buy more liability at the same time, and usually they'll stack together unless, at least under Virginia law, you specifically ask that they're not aligning together. And if the broker says to you, you know, Johnny or Sue, you don't need that, we'll give you the umbrella policy, tell them to call me, because this is not right, and I don't think that's doing the consumer a benefit. And remember, while you might like your insurance broker, while you might trust the commercials and the Geico and all that, it's funny. At the end of the day, they don't have a fiduciary duty to you. They don't owe you anything. In a lot of ways, they're actually counter to you, because if and when you make a UIM claim, that company is going to do everything it can to minimize payment out to you. So hopefully you've seen this video before you end up needing UIM. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you're an insurance adjuster and you disagree with me, give me a call. We'll have a discussion, because if this is information that you're not aware of, you need to know it. So I wish you guys the best. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. You can get me at 703-570-4180, or you can check out www.abreniolaw.com. Thanks a lot. Wish you the best.